Welcome to this talk on modeling and simulation of fast formation onset in plasma-facing materials. I am Dwaipan Dasgupta from University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Right at the beginning, I like to acknowledge the contributions from my co-workers, Professor Carl Hammond from University of Missouri, Professor Dimitri Marudas from University of Massachusetts Amherst, and my postdoctoral advisor, Professor Brian Worth. Also, I like to highlight all the experimental studies which we have used to validate our model were performed by Dr. Robert Kolasinski from Sandia National Lab. And this work was supported by Office of Fusion Energy Sciences from US Department of Energy through SIDAC program. Talking about what is fuzz, I like to take a step back and provide a brief overview of fusion energy. Nuclear fusion is an environmental friendly energy source which uses deuterium as a primary fuel, which is present in abundance in seawater. Unlike renewable energy sources, fusion is reliable. Unlike fission, it is very safe and most importantly, highly efficient. Fusion energy and the magnetic confinement, or commonly known as tokamak reactor, were discovered several decades ago. And ITER, a tokamak fusion reactor which is currently under construction, where for the first time on Earth a self-heating plasma or burning plasma is expected to generate in 2026. Therefore, the obvious question here is that what took it so long? The key challenges are figuring out how to generate burning plasma and sustain it for a long period, and finding the right material for the reactor. In this talk, we'll focus on the material challenges, especially the plasma-facing inner wall of the reactor. This is a magnified cross-sectional view of the reactor core of ITER. The temperature at the center of the plasma is expected to reach 150 to 300 million Kelvin, which is 10 times higher than the temperature at the core of the sun. And right at the bottom, this diverter region will face a heat load which can be 10 times the heat load of a space shuttle which it experienced on re-entry. Under these extreme conditions, the surface go through complex atomic processes as shown in this cartoon, which will damage the surface. And this raises a concern about the mechanical strength and reliability of the reactor wall. Now, we are talking about ITER. Toward developing commercial scale reactor, either we can go for a larger core size, which means more surface area, or a compact size reactor, which means the condition at the reactor core will be more extreme than ITER. Either way, finding the right material for plasma facing component in the fusion reactor is one of the biggest challenges, and hence realization of fusion energy is one of the grand engineering challenges of this century. In this talk, I'll focus on diverter wall, for which the candidate materials are extremely limited. For ITER, it is tungsten. The helium generated in fusion reaction is collected and removed from the plasma through diverter. Under the ITER-like conditions, helium plasma implantation in tungsten develops complex nanofiber-like structure, which is known in the fusion community as fuzz. On the top right, the three ACM images capture the growth of micron-sized fuzz over few thousands of seconds. And in the bottom right, the high-resolution TEM image confirms that the tungsten in the fuzz remains crystalline. However, the fuzz is extremely brittle. If it enters into plasma, then high atomic weight tungsten can cool down the plasma and can affect the reactor performance. The focus of our current study is to understand, describe, and predict the tungsten surface dynamics under plasma exposure, especially the onset of fuzz formation. Although we do not have a complete understanding of the fuzz formation, but in this slide, I have summarized our current state of knowledge. When helium atoms are implanted in tungsten due to the strong repulsion between tungsten and helium, helium is insoluble in tungsten, and it is also extremely mobile. Therefore, implanted helium atoms aggregate and form helium clusters. Once the cluster size are large enough, typically 7 to 8 helium atoms, it knock out one tungsten atom and form helium vacancy cluster. These clusters are practically immobile and grow further through trap mutation reaction, where helium vacancy cluster absorbs helium atom and in that process generate tungsten self-interstitials. The tungsten self-interstitials atom then bind together to form a cluster, to be precise dislocation loop, which ultimately diffuse to the surface. On the other hand, this helium vacancy cluster or otherwise known as bubble, formed very close to the surface becomes sufficiently large, then it can burst, leaving the crater on the surface. A combined effect of these subsurface bubble growth, bubble bursting, self-interstitial cluster diffusion from near surface to surface diffusion to the formation leads to the formation of protrusions, which eventually grows into complex fuzz-like morphology. One point I like to emphasize here that the atomistic studies conducted over last 15 years have identified all these key processes involved in the fuzz formation, which I have just now mentioned. However, such studies cannot probe the large spatial scale or propagate the time scale of hours and beyond that are more relevant for the experimental studies for fuzz formation. With this background in mind, we set out to develop an atomistically informed continuum scale model of tungsten surface morphological evolution under helium-ion irradiation, which can overcome the length and the time scale limitations of the atomistic models, while being able to give a reasonable prediction of surface dynamics in comparison with experiments. In our model, we consider the bulk tungsten as rigid, semi-infinite substrate with the nanobubble region above it all the way towards the surface considered as the strained thin film due to the bubble pressure. For simplicity, we assume that the helium bubbles are spherical, not faceted, and take interfacial tension at the interface between helium bubble and the tungsten matrix to be isotropic. We then homogenize the nanobubble region and consider it to be a homogeneous continuous layer with uniform nanobubble size and number density, where the actual bubble arrangements can be either regular or random. Finally, we mention that for simplicity, at this stage of model development, we do not include dislocation loop formation and loop punching in this model explicitly, but we include as a constant flux of self-interstitial atoms to the surface. Here, we put the key ingredients of our model together to derive the governing equation for the surface morphological evolution. The helium bubbles generated near surface are overpressurized. Using the Young-Laplace equation for the overpressurized bubble and carrying out a force balance at the tungsten and helium interface, where bubbles are treated as inhomogeneous inclusion according to Eshelby's inclusion theory, we can derive an expression for equibiaxial stress level sigma b in the homogenized strain layer that represents the nanobubble region. Using targeted MD simulations, as shown, we have confirmed that the nanobubble region is under equibiaxial compressive stress as it is assumed, and the MD computed biaxial stress level is in reasonable quantitative agreement with our computed value using Eshelby's theory. We can also express the tungsten surface mass flux proportional to the gradient of the chemical potential of the surface atoms with the contribution from curved surface energy and elastic energy, where mu naught is the chemical potential of a flat surface and ds is the surface diffusivity. In this slide, I am giving you an overview of coupling of the atomistic information and the experimental findings with our continuum model. Using the latest large-scale MD predictions by Carl Hammond, we have a correlation available between the number of helium atoms and the number of vacancies in helium bubble, which we have used to compute the molar volume of helium in the bubbles. In a proper equation state, we can use it to find the pressure inside the bubble, which can be then used to compute the stress level in the nanobubble region. On the other hand, we have also used experimental results on evolution of helium concentration to fit an empirical equation for which helium content depends on time and use that information in our model. In the model, we have also included the flux of self-interstitial tungsten atoms, where the thermodynamic driving force for this flux is corresponding to the gradient component of the chemical potential in z direction that can be determined through the difference between chemical potential of self-interstitial atom in the bulk tungsten and tungsten's surface atoms. I have already mentioned about the second driving force for surface evolution, the stress energy and curvature driven surface diffusion. The third ingredient of our model is the flux of tungsten atom loss to surface erosion as a result of sputtering. However, in our current study, the helium incident ion energy is below 100 eV, which makes this sputtering loss extremely negligible, and we do not include this in the current model. Expressing the surface morphology with the surface height function h and using the continuity equation for conservation of tungsten atom yields the governing surface morphological evolution of tungsten under helium plasma irradiation. The numerical implementation of our model, we use Fourier spectral method to solve the electrostatic boundary value problem and compute the stress field in the nanobubble layer coupled self-consistently with the monitoring of evolving surface morphology, employing an operator splitting semi-implicit front tracking method with adaptive step size. With this numerical approach, we can carry out self-consistent dynamical simulation of the surface morphological evolution. And we use the root mean square surface roughness and the average surface height to characterize the simulated as well as experimentally obtained surface morphology. The simulation results according to our model are benchmarked against the experimental measurements. In the experiments, eta grade tungsten is exposed to helium plasma with ion energy of 75 eV and flux on the order of 10 to the power 20 helium per meter square per second at a temperature of 840 degrees C. In this simulation, we start with a very smooth surface with RMS surface roughness of 5 nanometer, very similar to the surface roughness of electropolished tungsten. All the other simulation parameters are identical to the experimental ones. In the figure on your left is this AFM image of tungsten surface after 80 minutes of plasma exposure. Red and yellow colors represent the hills and the valleys of the surface morphology. Two figure pens on the right are the representative cross-sectional profiles along the two lateral directions. The set of figures on your right are the simulation results. There is a close match between the experimental and computed morphologies, both quantitative as well as qualitative. In quantitative in terms of the height of hills on the cross-sectional profile, which implies that our model can successively predict the initial growth rate of nanotendrils emanating from the surface, which is the precursor for fast formation. However, the nanotendril width and the spacing in our simulated results are off by a factor of 2 to 5. The model can capture the long wavelength in the surface, an example of which is highlighted by the white line on the AFM image, but it misses the local surface corrugation. As we can clearly see in the tilted AFM image on the right panel, that the overpressurized bubbles situated right below the surface layer start bursting or forming pinholes within 30 minutes of exposure. These phenomena are not included in the model, and that is why our model cannot capture the local surface modifications or the short length scale modifications. Measuring the bubble size and the helium content in the plasma irradiated tungsten is experimentally challenging, and simulating the subsurface bubble dynamics is computationally demanding, and hence it is not included in the model. Instead, we have treated the bubble size and helium concentration in the tungsten as parameters, and the two figures on the top row on your left show the dependence of surface morphology on bubble size, which is denoted by different colors, and the helium concentration in the tungsten, which is varied along x-axis. Both the surface characterization matrix, surface roughness, and average surface height showed strong dependence on bubble size and helium density. In the bottom, two other metrics show similar trend, which we will not discuss here in the interest of time. I like to switch gear and talk about the effect of temperature on fuzz formation. Till date, the experimental evidence of fuzz formation is limited to 900 to 2000 Kelvin. In this study, the focus is on the lower threshold of the temperature for fuzz formation over the temperature range around 900 K, which is very much of the interest for the experiment in ITER. In this figure, a wide collection of experimental results available in literature are put together to study the correlation between the height of fuzz plotted in the y-axis and the helium fluence plotted on x-axis. The red box shows a threshold limit known as incubation fluence, below which no fuzz is formed. However, We believe it is the duration of plasma exposure as opposed to the fluence in conjunction with the average bubble size and the helium saturation level which influence tendril formation significantly. The figure on your right shows a representative simulation result of the evolution of RMS surface roughness with time. At the beginning, the surface roughness drops due to the curvature-driven surface smoothing, which is also observed in experiment, followed by increase in the surface roughness due to the formation of surface protrusions. In experiments, it is also assisted by the bubble bursting, which is currently not included in our model. And finally, the protrusions grow to nanotendril, which ultimately leads to fuzz formation. A similar trend is observed for other surface characterization metric average surface height. This figure is a collection of simulation results for our model at different temperature, marked by the different markers. We plot helium concentration on x-axis and the surface roughness of the tungsten surface after 80 minutes of plasma exposure on y-axis. On the next figure, we have plotted the same results but after 5 hours of plasma exposure. Now, for better understanding, if we follow one set of irradiation conditions, the one which is marked by the red star here, we can see that the tungsten surface which shows no surface response at 80 minutes can form nanotendril upon prolonged exposure of 5 hours. And this observation is true irrespective of the choice of surface characterization metric. Now on the right is a surface response diagram constructed through the simulations for 80 minutes of exposure. The x and y axis map to the irradiation conditions. The gray shaded region implies that any temperature and helium concentration within that region, the corresponding surface response plotted in the left figure is above the critical limit. In this case, the critical limit is defined as 1 nanometer and the trend in the surface response do not change with changing the critical limit. If the exposure time is increased, which means the surface is allowed to evolve for longer time, then the gray region expands towards the low temperature. This implies the fuzz can be observed at low temperature, lower than the 900 Kelvin limit set by the experimental studies performed till date, provided the exposure time is long enough. As mentioned before, in our model, we use bubble size as a key parameter, and the two figures on the right show that with increasing bubble size, the gray region shrinks and the boundary move toward the higher temperature. And this trend is universal, not dependent on the choice of the surface characterization metric. The whole temperature dependent response behavior of tungsten surface can be explained using characteristic timescale. The denominator of the expression for the timescale, we have the surface diffusivity, which has a strong Arrhenius type dependence on temperature, and the average stress in the nanobubble region, which is related to temperature through the pressure inside the helium bubble. And the pressure is a strong function of temperature. Additionally, the thermal softening of the elastic moduli of tungsten, a factor in the numerator, influences the timescale too. In this figure on your right, if you follow the data highlighted with the red box, you can see that the combined effect of all the three factors on the characteristic timescale plotted on the y-axis. With increasing temperature, the timescale decreases and hence nanotendrils go faster and vice versa. The average bubble size has an opposite effect, which with increasing bubble size, the characteristic timescale also increases and the surface response becomes more sluggish, which is consistent with our previous observations. In summary, we have developed an atomistically informed 3D continuum model that can describe the initial stages of the surface morphological evolution in helium ion irradiated tungsten, leading to the fuzz formation. And we have compared the simulation predictions according to the model with experimental measurements. Additionally, we have demonstrated how this model can be extremely useful in studying the effect of irradiation conditions such as temperature on the fuzz formation. We are currently working toward incorporating additional physical phenomena into this model. In this talk, I could barely scratch the surface of the complex phenomena called fuzz formation. For more on this topic, I strongly encourage you to visit the two other talks from this session which are listed here. Thank you for your time.